My grandmother's braids, the pedagogy of ancestral memory in faith and resistance. Growing up, I was fascinated with my grandmother's long hair. Her hair was not only an extension of herself, but a physical manifestation of her thoughts and the strong connection of care and resistance. I have memories of my grandmother braiding her hair early in the morning and every night before she went to bed. She braided her hair while she was praying and other times singing. If someone asked why she had long hair, she always answered, "Women are beautiful with a long hair, and we need to take care of ourselves. Our hair grows every day." Her long braid transmit me to a womanist and a strong woman, while at the same time showing the ancestral roots to a traditional way of living for Native women in Abya, or ancestral land. My grandmother Candelaria was born between mountains, the Andes, a generation of Native people in the land of millennials. She born in February, the month of rain, and grew up with vegetables and potatoes and corn. Her face was beautiful. Her long hair always caused me magic and seeing them with beauty. She never colored or dyed her hair, and she was proud of her gray hair brought by age and wisdom. She was a weaver and a farmer. For that reason, her hands was rough and crabbed and deep. She worked with her hands, who was connected to the land, or ancestral motherland took care of her. My grandmother raised 7 children, and she raised them in community. She began also challenge and effort to raise all the children. As a part of the Native population with no access to education, she found a church, who was a place she was welcomed and encouraged to learn. At the age of 30, she took the courage to learn how to read. From there, she read her Bible every day loud for everyone to want to hear. She had a deep faith in God, who brought us freedom and renovate our spirit. But who taught my grandmother to braid her hair? When did it begin? My grandmother learned from her mother and grandmothers, recognizing the history of their life and care from one generation to the next. This is perhaps the school of life, which is full of memories and affection in learning from one generation to the next. But seeing firsthand is a way to learn by example. But not all the days were like that. Not always Native women were allowed to have a long hair. Interesting to learn more about the history of our hair, and I mean of braids. I started looking for more information. I went back to history to learn what happened for Native women and men here during colonization. The tragedy event for centuries broken the relationship of people in Abya. In our native land, my ancestors suffered genocide, slavery, and rape of our bodies and hair. Colonization was a rupture between mothers and daughters, fathers and sons, wives and husbands. The hair of men and women was cut as a sign of enslavement, powerless, and humiliation, to look more like the colonizer, look like a human beings, be a civilized people. Even though we lost our land and we forced to culture assimilation for the Spanish, the Portuguese, the English, the French, resisting white way of living. For this reason, in Native communities still present today, women have power when they are allowed to take care of themselves and practice our own ancestral traditions. Having a long hair and braids every day has become resistant against colonization in the last centuries. That's how was my grandmother combed her hair every day. It was a form of identity, ancestral memory, protection, and resistance. Between my grandmother and me is a century of history. How can I continue my grandmother's ancestral memory? In the last year, my hair has grown, and I comb and braid it twice a day. Her presence draws close to me every time that I braid my hair. I remember my grandmother with joy every day, as we can read in the Bible. Your testimonies are the heritage forever, for they are the joy of my heart. In the last time I talked with my grandmother was a week before her physical pass. At the age of 91, she received several passages for the Bible and sang their beautiful song. I listened with happiness in the distance. Because COVID, I cannot visit my grandma anymore. But I learned from my grandmother my family history and prepares me to understand my own life, faith, and courage to speak up and write about the colonization and ancestral memory. I remember my grandmother, Candelaria, as a Yachachi Guarme, wisdom, women, mujer sabia, womanist, and a healing woman. Her faith accompanies me and encourages me to recognize her as a teacher to keep our ancestral memory alive.